We've got a wonderful gang on it with Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Backrack, and to name but a few. I'm very excited. I'm nervous, obviously.
A Quiet Place Day One was awesome. I'm very excited to talk with you both about it. I have tinnitus in my ears, which means all the time, every day, as long as I can remember, I hear a high-pitched ringing. For the most part, I forget about it. But when I'm watching a movie like A Quiet Place and it's really quiet, when I'm supposed to be in silence, that's when I'm conscious of it. So I'm curious, in a setting like A Quiet Place where it is quiet all the time, what did silence make you aware of while working on this film?
Oh, that's such a good question. It made me aware of how noisy a film set is. Because like even when we were completely quiet in front of the camera, you know, there's like wheels turning and there's like cable being pulled and you can hear people breathing. I realized that the sound department has a whole lot to do to clean up a film before it goes out there. And they're working magic, is what I realized. What did you realize?
Yeah, film crews, they're not the quietest of the bunch, really.
No,
so
they're not.
It was that they were brilliant at accommodating how quiet we needed to be, but I guess I learned also that it's a noisy business.
Yeah.
That's the sound design teams on these movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's talking to you guys about the cat, which was an awesome part of the film, but I want to talk about the cat as it pertains to your character. Like, for example, my dog's name is Nova. She's named after my favorite Marvel Comics character. It tells you I'm a big nerd. The cat's name is Frodo. What does that tell you about the character in your perspective?
She's a nerd too, and she loves Lord of the Rings, and she's Sam, and she named her cat Frodo.
I love
because he's her companion on this Odyssey, and I thought that was beautiful. It also tells me that Michael Sarnoski is a nerd.
Absolutely. Did you find yourself sort of developing like an emotional connection to the cat? Because I know like when people foster a pet, it's hard to say goodbye.
Well, yeah, I was actually afraid of cats before I made this movie. Terrified of them. Terrified, I tell you. A cat would walk into a room and I'd cry if it came towards me. So I had a lot of growing to do before I could make this film. And so, yeah, I sought out cat therapy and spent time with cats enough that I could like approach them and touch them, and before long I could hold one. And so by the time I got to set, I was confident enough to have him in my arms, and by the time the film was over, I was crying about leaving Schnitzel and Nico, and then I went and I got myself a cat, and it was like, it's been the best decision.
I love it. I love it. And in a movie like this, there's much less dialogue than other movies, obviously. So I'd love to hear about the script. Does that mean the script is a bit thinner? Like, how does it look different in any way compared to other films?
It was very descriptive of the miscellany of sequences that we had to go through, but it was definitely light on the dialogue. Yes, and
yes,
that was a very interesting kind of spot to be in, where the dialogue was very effective and kind of punched through a lot of subtext. It was very communicative in a way that was it was urgent, I guess, because the only reason you're going to talk in an environment like this, which is perilous if you make any noise, is when it's absolutely urgent. The rest was up to us to kind of fill that in. And it was difficult because Lupita was undergoing this incredible kind of physical transformation for it. She was in ketosis, and it was amazing to kind of watch her be as present as she was and give as much as she did to every single scene.
It was amazing. You both were fantastic. And I have to ask you about this. Have people been asking you guys Marvel questions today?
What?
Have people been asking you both Marvel questions today?
Not really.
Oh, I'm gonna be the first. I have to do it. Congrats on Fantastic Four, man. I can't wait to see it. I know you can't talk about the movie. I would love to end with this, though, and check in with you again in a year. At this point in the journey, like, who is the Johnny Storm character to you? Like, have you been fitted for anything fun? Like, what has the experience been like so far in what you can say?
It's been a wonderful experience so far. We've got a wonderful gang on it with Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Backrack, and to name but a few. I'm very excited. I'm nervous, obviously, but I'm really looking forward to getting into it. The script is amazing. The director's fantastic. The intention behind it is we're going for it. So yes, I'll talk to you in a year.
Michael, genuinely, A Quiet Place Day One was fantastic, so I really wanted to start by complimenting your work on the film. Being the third in the franchise, this is a world where we've seen the monsters in the past, where as John Krasinski was able to kind of do the Jaws thing, where a little bit less is more, and then you kind of get to the reveal, we've seen them, but I feel like the way you show them, you're showing parts of them a bit more intimately, a bit more viscerally. Like, I want to start with the monsters. How did you want to approach making them scary and showing new close-ups, new images of this apocalyptic beast?
I think the big thing was we knew being in New York and it's so large and loud, we knew that we were going to need more monsters. It was going to have to get to a place that felt big and exciting, but I wanted to sort of like give that out in a way gradually that like we didn't hit there too early. Like we built up to that. So early on, you know, you're seeing shadows, you're seeing pieces of monsters, so you get little like detailed glimpses of them, but you're not sort of full-on bunch of creatures running around chasing you until much later in the film. So I think a lot of it was about how we sort of paced that out, and then just being really particular in how we were showing it very much from character perspectives all the time. Like if it's an intimate, tight moment with the characters, you're in there tight and kind of experiencing it with the confusion and mystery that they're experiencing it.
In going with those big and exciting scenes, I'm curious, like, was there anything you wanted to do that you weren't able to, or is there one that you like thought of along the way that you added in that you didn't think of originally?
I mean, both. You kind of are always, especially when you start working with people like ILM, who did the VFX for this and the first two and are so incredible and are so lucky to work with them. You know, they're constantly coming up with new ideas and giving you like, hey, you know, we could pull this thing off if you want. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. So you kind of lose track of like, you know, what were we gonna do? It's just, you just want to do what's the coolest and what everyone thinks is most exciting. So you're sort of always figuring that out.
I just think it's so cool that you're casually like, yeah, we're working with ILM.
Yeah, whatever. You know.
That's so cool. There's a moment early on in the film, and I won't spoil anything, but you'll know what I'm talking about, where there's sort of like this question of humanity, and if it's like, can it go out the window pretty quickly? Yeah. And I would love to hear about exploring that theme early on in the film and how you wanted that to be present throughout, but really in that moment early in the film, like, oh, it's the apocalypse. How, you know, morally upright do we have to be to survive?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moments that explore that, and I think some of that is Lupita's character Sam is deciding how she wants to interact with this apocalypse, what it's going to mean to her and to her humanity, and what journey she wants to go on. And part of her discovering that is seeing how other people are having to deal with this horrible situation and the difficult decisions they're being forced to make to maybe protect family members, and you know, it contributes to how she decides to approach this world. So no, it's something kind of like you're always thinking about as an audience, but also our characters are always thinking about, and it is about then, you know, Sam and Eric kind of navigating what the end of the world is going to mean to both of them.
Sam and Frodo. Great name choices.
Yeah.
Getting a cat to act on set must be interesting. There's a sequence where he's chasing a mouse. Did you use a laser pointer to direct the cat?
No, we generally weren't supposed to use a laser pointer because the cat was so well trained, and the laser pointer is kind of the poor man's version of controlling a cat. So usually Joe and Kim, who were our animal trainers, were really on top of just making the cat do what it needed to do, and the cat was like really cooperative. But there were a couple times where it was like, we really want it to look over there. Like, we just, yeah, okay, you got it. And some little eye contact moments, it was just a little boop. There we go. But no, I mean, you kind of, you know, the cat sort of forgets its training when it sees a laser pointer because it's just like, well, now I got to kill that laser.
That's funny. I started this by mentioning this is the third in the Quiet Place franchise, but obviously it's going back to day one. I would love to hear about the process of working with John Krasinski to sort of craft a story that both kind of reinforms stories we've seen in the first two movies, but also maybe kind of sets up like a part 3 if that comes along anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a lot of conversations, a lot of kind of back and forth about, you know, he presented, hey, we want to do a New York Day One movie. And then he really gave me the freedom to be like, you know, what does that mean for you? How would that be a Michael movie? Like, he didn't want to force me to try and emulate the past movies. And so I just had to think about what kind of characters I wanted to explore, how I wanted to see this world. And then we had a lot of back and forths about, you know, there are little things we can do to sort of suggest things about the other movies and see some characters. But it always just had to feel in service to Sam's journey and her core emotional story. So yeah, it was just brainstorming, talking, and thankfully he was just very generous and open with the idea of, you know, make this yours and do what speaks to you.